All right. So I started today. I'm going to shoot a walkthrough scouting report for the statewide tournament. But today we got the update, so we got a few new looks here on the home screen. Let's open up some of these chests. We'll go through and see if there's anything. See what's exciting. Grab some of these comments. Get another one rolling. Let's go check out what's customizable in the store. Customize. American football, 1,000 gems. What is the deal here? +2 bonus. I'll have to look up that and see exactly what that stuff does. Let's do my club card trading while I'm here. Club card trading. I'll have to go through and see what all of the changes are. I got to do the down and oneer. I'm trying to get the down and oneer out of the loop. That's why it's so high. It shows up quite often. I'm just going to get it out of the loop. It's going to get out of there sooner or later. I might as well get it out now instead of dinking around with one that I don't want. All right, so let's talk about this new statewide tournament. So we'll go look at the club stuff later. So statewide tournament, statewide classic. Let's go check it out. Let's go to, where do we want to go? So if you go to Golf Clash Notebook, we've got 3 different courses here. We've got Vineyard Acres, we've got Santa Ventura, and we got Juniper Point. So the way the holes lay out is hole number 1 is Vineyard Acres, hole number 3. Hole number 2 is Vineyard Acres, hole number 1. Hole number 3 is Santa Ventura, hole number 9. Hole number 4 is Santa Ventura, hole number 4. Hole number 5 is Santa Ventura, hole number 8. Hole number 6 is Juniper Point, hole number 5. Hole number 7 is Juniper Point, hole number 7. Hole number 8 is Vineyard Acres, hole number 7. And hole number 9 is Vineyard Acres, hole number 9. So those are going to be the holes that are going to be in the statewide tournament. Those holes were played at, I found holes. I went to and set up a playlist for the statewide tournament scouting report, and I put holes in here from the Vintage Open and the Gridiron, the 2019 Gridiron tournament. I'm not sure when the Vintage Open was played, but you can go through and watch those from Vintage Open hole number 1 all the way through, and that's the right order. Even though don't look at what it says on there. That's just from a prior tournament. And then I'll post this video at the top, so hopefully we can keep this within an hour. That's the goal. So let's go Vineyard Acres first. Vineyard Acres, hole number 1 is going to be Vineyard Acres. Hole number 3, I suppose I can fly a little faster, team. Hole number 3 is hole number 1 of the statewide tournament. Stateside. All right, our goal here is to get on a 1. Now this is a refigured par 4, and our goal is to get on this side. Now you can use this little window right here, but it's probably going to end you up in this area. So if you're hitting on this side back here, you're probably going to end up in this area. I always found if you are hitting from this side, is to be more over here towards the sand. If you watch from where the ball guide, or where that was not the one that I wanted to hit. So this is our path to the cup, but we're going to have to do it by coming out to this point and then coming over. So if you try and pinch yourself up down here, when you're going to end up in the sand or in this rough. You need to give yourself enough room for your ball to come around, because you're going to want to use some curl here. So you want to give yourself enough room for that curl to become effective and still end you up in the fairway on this end. It's better if you bring out a big enough ball that you can. That was not the one. Here, I need to move this. Hold on. It's usually over here. Is to try and get into this area right here. Now, what you want to watch out for is your second bounce. Your first bounce is here, and your second bounce, you can see where the rough kicks out and then comes back in. If you can hit in front of that, where your first bounce is here, and your second bounce is here, then you're completely past that trap. But if you're hitting somewhere in that zone, then you've got to make sure you're to the left in the fairway. It's very easy when you're walking it around, because if you look at where the green's at, our tendency is to try and bring it like this, to try and bring it around. And when we get to this spot right here on our arc, if we're using curl, so we'll have to leave a little bit more distance, which will typically put us over on this side with a short chip on. It's hard to actually get to the cup. But this is definitely a hole that we need to get an eagle on this hole. We can't look at this as being one of those par fours. This is a very eagleable par four, and it's all about getting up there in one. Now, I think in the video I show the shot where I was actually on the green, and it was in my 88 account, so it had like a level 6 extra mile. So you can get it done with lower developed stuff and a little bit bigger ball. But this is a great hole right here, and I think this configuration actually lends itself more to eagle than the old one. They were just different. The green used to be really big. It was different down here. The front part's exactly the same. Pretty close. Definitely eagle hole. We can't think anything but eagle. We want to be out in this range and just try and like I said, you don't have to get, there are some spots on this green where you can be in a max overpower spot, and it's not that big of a green. So I really, on this, don't want to be necessarily on the putting surface. I'd rather be like just on the fringe, just chipping it up. Hole number 2 is Vineyard Acres, hole number 1. Now there's 2 ways that you can play this hole. With a long iron. And a lower power ball, you don't need a big ball here to push, because I think with a 2 power ball, your red line's going to be somewhere up in this area. With a 1 power ball, your red line's going to be somewhere here with a 0 power ball. So this is the zone right in here. Now, one of the things I like to do, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can approach this spot. I like to be a couple rings of separation off of this transition, and then I want my second bounce to be right here on the fringe. So bounce number 1, I want to have a complete trajectory over the sand trap, over this rough area. I want my second bounce to be on the fringe, and then I want it to release to the hole. It takes very little maneuver. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of adjustment. I have nothing written down at all for beginning numbers as far as elevations or any adjustments we're doing. Right now I'm just kind of focused on trying to see which way I want to play the hole, and then depending on which way the wind is blowing, then I'll start making adjustments during the qualifying round. So right now it's my main goal is just to establish which way I want to go at them. This is way number 1. This probably, if you're going for hole-in-one here, this is really the better way to go. You have a lot more control over it. The other way, and I think in the video I showed a backspin shot where you can start off up here with a katana. You bring out a 2 power ball so your red line's forward, and then you can try and backspin it to the cup. I've made a lot of hole-in-ones on this with this shot. I think I made maybe 1 with the backspin shot. But if you're having any difficulty on this hole, just knowing that there is a backspin shot, if you've got a Saturn and a katana, you can get that shot done. And there is a little bit of a backboard here you can play with. But this shot right here, 1 bounce, couple rings of separation, second bounce on the fringe. You will see some people put their second bounce on the fairway area right here. There is an adjustment, and I'm pretty sure I do a 10% here. But we'll have to see how that works out as the week goes on. But if you make this adjustment, this wind adjustment wrong, and you were on this fairway, it's super easy. I see people do it all the time. Super easy to clip that rough area. So if you give yourself the room where you're on the next cut, the fringe, and if something went wrong, you're more apt to hit the fairway and still roll forward onto the green. Like this hole. This hole right here is going to give us a really good opportunity for a hole-in-one. It's not as good, I think, as the eagle on hole number 1, but it's pretty close. It's a pretty decent hole. Hole number 3 is going to be on Santa Ventura. Let's see what I got here. Seems like I have another one open. I'll go to Santa Ventura. I've had a lot of success on the holes that are in this tournament, so if I actually put out some effort this week, I could have a pretty successful week. Santa Ventura, hole number 9. Now, I remember when this hole first came out, and this hole, you have to make the choice right off the bat of where you're trying to get. Are you just trying to play like we do when we're normally playing one-on-one, and you're trying to get into this area right here? And it doesn't matter whether you're playing from the pro or the expert or the rookie tees or where you're playing. If you can get up into the front, and the farther you can get up, the better. And as long as you don't have a massive headwind, you can get up with a wood, and it doesn't have to be a big hitting wood. And you can do it with a Titan, a Kingmaker, a Katana. I play this hole in one-on-one with a Marlin, and getting up into this zone right here is going to be super easy if you bring out a bigger ball. And then it's a straight wood coming in. Now, it's a very difficult wood shot because from here, you can't get around the corner when you're looking at it if you draw your lines. Here's kind of your landing area out here. So you draw a line to the green. These trees are going to be in the way, and you can't stay on that line. You really want to be coming into the green like this. So that means we're going to have to curl it around or side spin it around. A lot of times I put side spin on the ball. I'll be in a good spot, and I'll put side spin on the ball, and it looks like it's going to go that direction, but you still have to put on a little bit of curl, in my opinion, or bring out a really big side spin ball. It's a difficult shot. I think the second shot from here is more difficult than the drive to get here. And for me, the drive to get to that spot up there is a QB or a rock. Either one will work. And I go at the red line, 3 rings of separation off of this little rough area right here. So this rough area, wherever you're at in your club, 3 rings of separation off of this rough area. Take the wind out, max curl, no overpower. On a rock, it's max topspin. On a QB, it hits back a little bit farther, and I think you can still do max topspin, and it'll bleed you out into this area. With whatever clubs you have, it's just you want to make the shot a setup shot, and you want to do it because you're having to use curl. In my opinion, whenever you're using curl, it's always best to try and work the shot out so you're using max curl, because that's repeatable from one time to the next to try and get out into this spot. And then you've got that wood second shot. This is not an easy hole to get an albie on, and if you're from here, it's not that it's impossible to get an albie, but it's a low percentage shot. You're coming in at the wrong angle. And if you look up here at the green is kind of protected. Here's the sand trap. And the sand is pushing up against this hill, and so it's super steep right here. And then it comes to a ridge, and then it rolls down to the cup. And so when you're coming, and so this hill extends all the way back like this. So when you're coming at it from this angle, you've got this really steep hill in front of you, and then it's steep on the other side rolling down to the cup. So it's really hard to try and get through this. You really are going to go through this gap and just end up on the green. If you're really trying to go for the hole, you're going to need to get on to this side right here. You're going to need to get out into this area. And really, in my mind, there's 2 landing zones. There's the front landing zone, and then there's the back landing zone. The back landing zone is you have no super control over where your final landing spot was, and you could end up being in a spot of bother just because you're right behind one of these trees coming at the cup. From here, you have a long iron, and it's pretty much the same shot from here. You still have a difficult time trying to get to the green. It's better when you're doing these shots if you're bringing out a club, if you're on this side right here, a club that has lots of backspin, because it gives you some options. But if you're in the lower spot, in most cases, you're probably going to take the same approach to get on the green that you would if you were from back here. You're going to come at it from this direction. If you can eke yourself up into this area where you're anywhere up in here, if you're anywhere up in this area right here, Now, this is where you definitely want to make sure that you have in your bag a long iron that's got lots of backspin. Grim Reaper, Saturn. If you've got a Grim Reaper and it's got its 100%, it's better. Because the Saturn never gets 100%. It's like at 92. It's got a lot, but it's not 100%. Because believe it or not, to show you how low a percentage Albie this hole is, your best shot of getting an Albie is to be out in this area right here where you're clear between these two trees. You have a straight in shot to the cup. On the cup side, the cup is here, and here's the flat, and then it comes up the hill, and then it goes down into the sand. So it moves a ton here. It's hard to do any kind of finesse type deal. If you have a Grim Reaper and you have 100% backspin, you can try a dunk. And if you miss the dunk, you won't go off the back side of the green. If you have a Saturn and you get your wind adjustment even a little bit wrong, you could end up off the back side of the green and end up either in the sand or in the rough on the back side of the green because you don't have quite enough backspin to pull you back onto the green. So if you're out in this area right here, so what I'm going to take in my bag when I play this hole is I'm going to take a long iron. I'm going to take a Grim Reaper. You could take a Guardian, and that might not be a bad choice. It doesn't give you quite as much ball guide, but if you're out in this area right here and I'm not going to go for this shot. I'm going to go for the white line, trying to be out into this area right here. But if I can get forward bleed and get out here into the perfect spot, I'll take it. But as a failure, this would be option number 1, this would be option number 2, and option number 3 is you get caught up in the rough. And if you're in this area like halfway forward and you've got a Nirvana, you can recover. If you're back here, you're in big trouble. That's why there's risks when you do this layup shot back here, because if you do this layup shot and you screw it up, you tank it, and you end up in the sand or the rough down here, now you're sunk. So when you do this layup, you have to make the layup. But if you're trying to go far forward and you end up out here in the rough, you can recover. It's not the easiest shot in the world, but you can get it done. My goal is to try and get into this area to come at it. And you're still in, I think you're still in, you might be in long iron when you get into this area right here. Or you might still be in minimum wood. It's pretty close. The real goal is to get up here so that you can try the dunk. But if you're going to try that dunk, I will tell you, you need to bring a Grim Reaper, or you need to bring whatever has the most backspin in your bag for a long iron. And short iron, just in case you really get a hold of it. You get up there, you could get in short iron range, so you want to make sure you've got a great short iron and a great... But I'm not going to bring my recovery clubs as far as a Spitfire and a Nirvana. I'm not going to change those to clubs that will help me in the sand or that have a lot of backspin, because if you get caught up, it's typically back here. If I get caught up here, I'll just have to deal with it and get on the green and get my eagle and move along. But if you get caught up back here and you don't have those long hitting recovery clubs, you're going to wish that you did. They will save you here. They may or may not save you up here. All right, that was hole number 3. I like this hole. This hole right here, that when this hole first came out, was during the World Cup here a couple years ago. And they had the World Cup balls, and the World Cup balls actually, this hole they work really, really well on. I think they're 3 power, 3 side spin, 2 wind. So if you have one of those balls work really well, really well on this. You can't bring out too big of a ball. It depends on how much overpower you're going to do if you're going to try and get over into this area. So we'll have to see which way the winds are blowing. Hole number 3. Hole number 4 is Santa Ventura, hole number 4. Now, there's 4 different ways that you can play this hole. You can play from over here and try and hit up. That's never been, like, in my mind, the ways to come at this hole, this is the 4th best option. Typically, in one-on-one, you're going to see people play on the black line. And typically, when I play on the black line, I'm 3 rings of separation off of the top with whatever club I'm bringing. So if I'm playing with a sniper, it's 3 rings off. If I'm playing with a Guardian, it's 3 rings off, even though there's a little bit of difference. And then once I get it into that spot, I literally have no idea how much topspin or backspin I put on there. I dial it up to the point where my ball guide's terminating right at the cup. And then I make a wind adjustment. While you're going to see this is probably the most common way to shoot this. This is not like hole-in-one type ways to go at it. This is not the best way to do it. There are two other ways, and they're both kind of fraught with danger. One of them, I believe, is more dangerous than the other. And the first one is to do this bounce over, just like they're showing here. And the hopping over. So we see this type of terrain in Golf Clash where we're coming to an area, and then we have a hill that comes up, and then it comes up, and then so here's the flagpole and here's the green. And when you're hitting down in this area and you're doing your initial bounce, you've got to get, I am a big fan of hitting on the flat and never trying to set my shot up so that I'm hitting on the curve. Because if you come in and you're hitting on the curve and you hit low on the curve, it's going to take a big bounce going up. If you hit high on the curve, it's going to take a big bounce going this way. And so you can have these huge fluctuations. So if, let's say you pulled the wind wrong and you should have pulled out a little bit more wind and it pushes you farther forward, then you're going to get a different result when you're hitting on this. Whereas if you're hitting on the flat, as long as you maintain hitting on the flat, you'll get a pretty consistent second hop. It may be a little bit farther back or forward, but the hop itself is going to be pretty consistent. You're not going to get this inconsistent hop. I see a lot of people that do the bounce over to try and get up, because if you hit it right, it's beautiful. You hit down here, it makes the hop completely over. Let's draw that back out again. It makes the hop, you hit right here, and the first bounce comes in, and the second bounce comes up, and it hops and it scoots right across the top and just runs right up to the cup. It's a thing of beauty when it happens. But I've seen this happen bad for people more often than I've seen it happen good, where they end up duffing that shot, where they end up clipping the rough down here because it carried a little bit farther than they thought. Or they took out a little bit too much and then it clipped up here and then it rolled back into the sand. Or the second bounce hit up here on a really steep part of the hill and then went bounce, 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 and then went right back down into the sand. So I usually don't like to include these types of traps when I'm setting up shots. That's not my favorite thing to do, because especially if there's another way to go at it. And I know that there is you have a shot. If you hit it right and everything goes your way, you have a shot. The other way that you can come on this hole is you can bring a Saturn or a Grim Reaper, and you can bring a Kingmaker, and it'll push your red line forward. Now you can only do this in rookie. It'll push your red line forward, and you can get right up to that red line. Now the last few times we've played this, we've had headwind, and so we played it one time where we had a katana, and where we had this kind of wind, and I was able to hit the shot with a katana because I was on this side of the red line. I was able to pull the wind out. But the last few times we played here, we've had headwind, so I've had to push my red line forward so that I had enough room to work the wind out. And you can take a backspin shot where you're trying to backspin it right to the cup. I've had a lot of success with that. Of all of the hole-in-ones I've hit on this, just in regular one-on-one play and whatever, I've hit more hole-in-ones in tournaments with this backspin shot than any other shot that I've tried on this hole. And there's really no fuss, no muss. You can get in a spot of bother if you get this adjustment wrong here and you pulled it back and you didn't pull out enough of the wind and it pushed you over this hill, where then you start to get a bounce coming forward because you have so much backspin on, you will end up in the big brown stuff. So we got 4 ways that we can play this hole. You can play it from, there we go, take a picture again. You can play it from here, you can play it from here, you can do the bounce over, or you can try and go directly onto the green. I'm going to do the directly onto the green. If for some reason I'm not happy with that, I'm probably going to switch to this, even though it's the most dangerous way of coming at it, just because these 2 ways right here, especially this one, because we use it all the time, these 2 ways, in my opinion, don't really give you a great shot at hole-in-one. And it's not that you can't make a hole-in-one. You've probably did it and go, I made a hole-in-one on that, and we can make hole-in-one, but it's not something that, like, repeatability, wash and rinse. it's going to be a little bit more difficult than these two shots. And this one is definitely safer. All right, that was hole number 4. Hole number 5 is hole number 8 of Santa Ventura. All right, this is a tough par 4 to get an eagle on, and there are multiple different ways that you can play this hole as well. And I play it 2 different ways, typically in tournaments. Only because I'm bringing out a bigger power ball, I will play the white line. I've never played the black line. I usually play the blue line or the white line, and there's variations on the white line. So let's talk blue line first. If you've got a big curl club, I see a lot of people, they'll set their club out here and they're trying to hit it straight forward. And on a straightforward shot, you can see, let's see where the tee box is. If you're trying to get out into, most of the time people are trying to get out into the clear right here. And so you draw that line to the tee box and it's going right through this rough area right here. And you'll see people try and do that. But if they're out here and then they want to get out into this area, they got to put some curl on it. And so they're at max club trying to get that done, trying to move it around. I usually come out here with a QB and I'll be 3 to 4 rings of separation off of wherever the red line is out here. My ball guide's going like this, and I'll do a max curl shot with about 2 topspin. It doesn't take very much, and it'll roll me right there in between these 2 shadows, and that gives me 2 different shots to the cup. Now if I have a rock, with my rock I actually set up 5 rings off of this, so I'm out in this area and I'm pointing like this because I have more curl. Same thing, about 2 topspin. I don't even know that it takes 2 topspin. It might only take like 1. It doesn't take very much. Maximum left-hand side spin. And do a blind max curl shot where you just end up right there. And that's a perfect spot. You have 2 options when you're in between these 2 shadows. Because here's the tree that represents that shadow, and we've got a tree out here. And what this spot right here does is it gives you an angle between those 2 trees right at the cup. So if you bring a guardian, you got more raw distance. You can typically get your guardian right into this area right here. So your ring set's right here. And you can do a max backspin, side spin shot, no curl. Just a max backspin, side spin shot. And when it hits, it'll bring it back around to the cup. But right hand side spin, maximum backspin, it hits the ground. Backspin and side spin don't take effect until the ball touches the ground. The first time it touches the ground, if you got max stuff on it, it's going to jerk into that direction and lay you up on the green, and you can get your birdie and go home. A lot of people will fail. This is a hole that we all want to get an eagle on, but there will be a huge percentage of people in the bracket that will end up getting a birdie on this hole. And so it's nice to go out there and give yourself the opportunity for the eagle, but it's really important that we walk away with nothing less than a birdie. I think that my chances of getting an eagle when I play this in one-on-one from the right-hand side are pretty damn close to 0. Because it's if I made it, it would be totally luck. Because it's a blind shot. You can't see where it's going to go. You're going in that direction. You're trying to put it onto the green, but you really have no control over where it ends up. The other way you can do it from out here is you can set your ball up. Let's say you had a sniper, because I do this shot a lot with a sniper. I will set my shot up, and my opponent's probably wondering what the hell I'm doing because I'm way back here and I'm setting the shot up and I put on backspin and side spin. And then I curl it, and what it happens is it'll curl around that tree and come in this direction. I don't normally do that with my guardian. It doesn't have quite as much curl. It doesn't have as much as the sniper, but it has more backspin. So if I've got my guardian, I'll just do the straight forward shot with no curl. And the backspin, because I've got more backspin, will bring me to the right. But if I have my sniper, I have less backspin, but I have more curl. So I will usually use the curl shot and come around the tree. So you have a couple different options out here. Obviously, if you got farther forward, you may be in your long iron. You may be on the other side of this tree where you have a little bit straighter shot coming in. So if you can end up, out in this area, then you're on the other side of that tree. But it's difficult to get out to that area. It's very easy to get caught up in the rough. And you can recover from some areas out here. And you've got a little bit more maneuverability because you don't have to hop over any water. So if you do get caught up out in this area, you can recover, which is something that you may or may not be able to do depending on where you're caught up over here. The white line, QB, upper developed rock, excuse me, Kingmaker. My goal is to get under this spot right here. And I want to use my QB, and it doesn't take a top level QB to get you into that area. It takes very, very little maneuver. And I'll have to work on that as the week goes on how much topspin to put on. I'm probably going to use my rock here just because it gives me more raw distance. And just try and bleed yourself up to the front of this landing pad. And then from there, you've got really 3 options. From here, you can do a bounce over where you're bouncing from here and bouncing over and trying to run up to the cup. Or you can go all the way to the other side and there's a rough bump. Or you can go all the way to the other side and try and backspin it up to the cup. So you have 3 different options. There is a serious wind adjustment down here. And I don't know what it is. But there is a very serious adjustment that we need to make when we're in this area, because it is super easy to hit that rough fat and end up caught in the rough. I don't know. I've done that rough bump, and I've committed to doing that rough bump several times. And I've always, before the end of the week, ended up abandoning it because I had a hole where I did everything exactly the same as I did on the last hole, and I ended up clipping that rough and got caught up in the rough and ended up getting a par here, and that's unacceptable. Especially when I can take the blue line and get a birdie every time. So I like rough bumps, don't get me wrong, but for some reason this rough bump here, it's difficult. Your second bounce, if you're trying to hit from this area right here, hey, start drawing on the screen. When you're in this area and your second bounce coming over, your second bounce is really close to that rough, and it's very easy for you, if you're hitting off the top, to end up clipping it. So this is the hole that I'm going to work on this week, and I'm going to work on making sure that I know what my numbers are on this second shot. There's a bunch of different ways that you can play this side, though. You can come out here with a bigger ball and try and go from this landing area all the way over to this landing area so that you end up over here, and now you have a short iron, possibly a long iron to the cup. I think it's long iron back here, and I think it's short iron up here. So if you can get over to the other side, and I have done this shot in the past a long time ago when the hole first came out. We worked on a max overpower hook shot here, and I did get it where I ended up in this area in that particular tournament and ended up getting an eagle only because I was way up here and I had almost a rapier shot. I mean, it was close. It was real close. But I think it's easy if we can get right here with the red line with a QB. If we're bringing out an extra mile, something that's got more power with a power 3 ball, we're in this area right here. If we can bring out a big enough ball so that our landing area is in this fat part of the fairway, so we've got a little bit more maneuverability, we definitely have a shot where we can get over to this side. I think if we're over on this side, we've got our options for coming in are going to be a lot better. I'm going to work on this hole this week and see what kind of options I have on this side of hitting it up there. We could go see if there's a max overpower hook shot that we could use to try and get up into this area. It seems like there is one of these trees out here that blocks that view. But I'm going to work on this hole this week and see what my options are, especially on the white hand side. But I'm probably going to play the white. But if you just want to come to this hole and get a birdie and move along, little doggy, all you have to do is get between those 2 shadows. That's it. Everybody thinks you got to get way up here. You don't. You just need to get between those 2 shadows. And that's super easy to do. You can do that with a marlin. So if you bring out a bigger ball, if you bring out a katana or a kingmaker, so you've got lots of side spin at your disposal, lot more power, especially on the second shot coming in. It's not really going to matter if you're just trying to get in between these 2 trees on the drive, but where it could help you a lot is on the second shot coming in. It'll give you a lot more options. All right, that was hole number 5. Hole number 6 is Juniper Point. Hole number 5, Juniper Point. Let's see if we can find Juniper Point. All right, we're going to mess around here. Juniper Point, there we go. Juniper Point. Hole number 5. Now there's several ways that you can play this one. One of the ways I see people play a lot on this is hitting out to this island out here. And then when you're on this island, you've got a wood coming in and you've got this mouth here. It's really the second shot is the easy shot. Getting out here and making sure you're in the right spots a little bit more, I'm not going to say difficult, but it's a little bit more technical. What cracks me up is that I see you can take this shot with a QB and you're hitting into a fairly narrow area over here. Would you rather bring a 100% accurate club, or would you rather bring an EM that's 2.1 or 2.4 or some club that's not as accurate? If you're going to hit to an area like this, why wouldn't you bring out your most accurate club? And you've got a long wood shot coming up to the cup. So this is definitely power 3 range. Help yourself out by bringing out a bigger ball. That way, if you do end up in a little bit short or a little bit of trouble, you'll have a bigger ball to help you get out of it. But you can hit over to here. I would use a QB and a Kingmaker and then go straight in towards the cup. Here's the problem from this angle. Here's the flagpole. There's kind of a little bit of a ridge like this as it runs towards the front of the cup. And so when you're coming at it from this direction right here, you're going up this hill, and it's kind of an upside hill to get to the cup. And here's the backside of the green. And the ball tends to work off a trajectory. So if you hit it at just the right speed, it gets caught up in the break and it moves off the cup. If you hit it too fast, it doesn't catch the break and it flies past the cup. And so I find that from this angle, it's a little bit difficult to try and get it to the cup. There is a flat area where on this side of the cup where the cup's at. So if you draw the line kind of like this, on this side it's flat, and on this side it's got a lot of movement going down. And where you're coming at it on this angle is you're coming at it on the hillside at an angle. And so everything wants to drift off to the right, or excuse me, the left. The other way you can go at this is to try and get out into this area. And you have several options. If you have a big topper, in my opinion, you're better off with a big topper than you are with an extra mile. And here's the reason why. Your extra mile, when it hits down in here, if you've got a 3-power ball like a Titan, and this is a great hole for a Titan, the king of balls, you're going to have to take some wind off. You're not going to be able to do an overpower shot. So if you brought your extra mile out and you could do a max overpower shot, you may gain more distance. But you can't do a max overpower shot with your extra mile and a power 3 ball. You'll get caught up down here. So you're actually having to take a little bit off with an extra mile. You're actually having to pull it back a little bit. Well, if you have a big topper, your big topper probably hits below 220. So you're losing about 15 yards of distance, and all of a sudden you're pulling your extra mile back. So you're not using all of your extra mile, but with your big topper, you're going to be at max club right here. You can leave the wind in. You'll have to really watch the wind. The wind does carry this area down here, kind of looks like this, where it's dropping down. And so as the ball's flying, it's going to hit here. When we've got this drop, as the ball comes in, it was supposed to hit right here. But the ball continues to fall. And when it continues to fall here at the end, it falls more than what the wind is saying. So if the wind is 4, it may actually fall forward, hell, 10-20%. You may pick up an extra ring. So I see a lot of times when people are in these areas, they'll push the limit right up against that rough in the front, and then they'll end up getting caught in the rough. You don't need to press the issue here. You need to hit the fairway. And your big topper is going to be better for you because you can put on max topspin. You need very little side spin. The only side spin I put on is just that little teeny bit that I can, just to keep me more in the center of the fairway. So one bounce on this side. Second bounce. You can see where the fairway goes like this. So the shortest distance from this side to this side is right here. So the more you hit it to the left, the farther you have to hit it forward in order to clear this rough. We want our ball to be like out here in this line, because that gives us a better window. If we're on that line, it gives us a better window into the cup so that we're on the left-hand side of that sand. The farther we hit it out here, the more we have to negotiate around the sand, where we have to start off over here and we have to curl it back or side spin it back. So the farther to the left you can end up on the drive, the better. But it does want to, as you get close to that rough area over here, it does want to fall off towards the rough area. So I usually try and come through right down through the middle, trying to stay to the left. The farther you can get out here, the better. You can get into your long iron range, and you've got a serious shot at it. Typically, you're going to find yourself out here in your wood range, and you've got a sniper, and it's once again. And I know that coming into the cup, we were doing an adjustment here too, and it seemed like it was in the 10% range, maybe a little bit more. There was definitely an adjustment coming into the cup. So I'm going to come at this hole with a big topper, a Kingmaker, or you could use a Titan. No overpower. I'm going to let the wind work with me. And I'm going to keep track of the wind. So if I have a 4-mile-an-hour wind and I leave that wind in and I come back the next day and I got a 4.8, I may take out a little bit of wind just to maintain the 4. All right, that was Juniper Point, hole number 5. Hole number 7 is Juniper Point, hole number 7. And I really like this hole too. There's 2 different ways that you can, in my mind, there's 2 different ways that you can play this hole. If you're trying to get hole in one, there is a no move shot, and you can adjust it. You can just start off where it's at, and you can adjust it from that point and do the deal, or you can make a slight adjustment and move it up there. I usually make the slight adjustment, but either way will work. And this is another one of those holes where you're on the flat, and this, see the little hollow right here? And that's the flat. So it's flat, and it comes up to that crotch, and then everything comes down to it. And then here's the hill, and then here's the green. I want to be down here in that hollow, that crotch area that's right at the very bottom where I'm hitting on the flat. So my ball comes in, it hits the ground, and it takes a bounce just like you would normally expect it to, and it bounces completely over this area. And when it gets up here to the top, it engages, and then it scoots, and then it just rolls out towards the cup. I do not want to involve this hill. And you'll see a lot of people during the week that will involve this hill. And when you hit the hill, if you hit it perfect, you'll probably get the forward bounce that you're looking for. But if you hit it further down on the hill, it's going to do a bigger bounce up. If you hit it further forward on the hill, it's going to do a bigger bounce forward. And you can end up with all of these varying lines. And it could be your fault, nobody's fault, their fault. It's just one of those deals. I don't like hitting off of these hills. And when we have and there's a bunch of holes that I can think of where this is your options. I'm not a big fan of hitting into hill faces. So I want to hit down here at the bottom. So you can do the no move, and I'm not sure exactly with the wind that we have in this tournament what our adjustments will be, but they're typically very little adjustment. Like a little bit of side spin, a little bit of backspin, a little bit of top spin. In the past on this hole, I've tried to do it where I bring a sniper and I want my white rings wedged in so that my white ring is touching the fringe over here, or the rough, and it's touching the rough over here, and I've got my white ring wedged in, and I'm using 1 and a sliver of topspin. And I think I was using just a little sliver of right-hand side spin. And going straight out the cup. It takes very little maneuver. And I'm 100% sure that we were doing an adjustment here. And I once again believe it was in the 10%, 15% range. It was very small. This will be another one of those holes. This hole right here, I've had a lot of success on this hole. What's funny is in like the last 3 tournaments that we've had this hole, the first 2, I was killing it, and then something changed. I don't know if it was wind direction or something slightly changed the last time, and I don't think I hit a hole in one on it all week. But this is definitely a hole in one of a par 3. I'm excited to see this hole in there. All right, hole number 8. We're back on Vineyard Acres. We're on hole number 7. All right. A bunch of different ways that we can play this hole. Drive-wise, what you're typically going to see, let's get back here where we can see so here's the path, the shortest path to the cup, and we're obviously not going to be able to make that. Hold on. Sorry about that. So we're obviously not going to be able to take that path. So there is, the typical shot here is about 1.5 to 2 rings of separation off of this transition between the fairway and the rough. You can bring a QB, you can bring a rock, you can bring an extra mile, you can bring an apocalypse, you can bring, here it's all about, if you're bringing out one of your bigger hitting clubs, it's all about running out too far and ending up in the rough over here. Obviously we don't want to end up in the rough over there. So if you're using or if you're using an extra mile or one of your bigger hitting clubs, you're not going to have to put everything on it. Whereas a QB and a rock, you may be able to put everything on it. I usually try and do this as a max curl shot because I'm trying to come from the tee box and I'm trying to actually get out into the top part to shorten the distance. The problem about hitting anything left here is that it's super easy. The way that this slope right here goes up like this. So if you hit farther down on it, and it gets steeper as it goes towards the top. So if you hit farther down on it, it's going to pull you to the left. So if you hit it to the left, you're going to get pulled to the left, and it's very easy to end up in the sand down here, even though it looks like it's a mile away. If you hit too far down on that hill on a left-hand shot, you can end up skirting this area down here and end up in some serious trouble. We don't have to actually put a lot on it to get it out into this area to give us a great second shot. I'm going to try some shots this week where I'm trying to come around the bend, like do the max overpower hook shot and see if I can end up out in this area, just to see what's possible. There was for a period of time where we could do a max overpower shot and hit through the trees, clip the rough out here and bleed forward right into this area. See if those shots are still available out there. I've done the shot where I've done the max curl and ended up kind of splitting the difference between from where I normally would be and where you'd really like to be if you want to get in your long iron range, and kind of been out here in the middle. But I can't remember if it dropped me to a different club or not. It's not really worth the skin to get farther forward. It really makes it worthwhile when you're actually picking up distance where you can drop a club. Like, hey, I was hitting max wood, now I'm hitting min wood. It would be much better if I was hitting max long iron. So if I can get up into this area, that would be great. There's a lot of different ways that you can approach the hole when you're here. Typically, the way that I like to play this hole is I like to do a backspin shot and engage this backboard and try and bring it back to the cup. But there's a rough bump that's here that's really nice. So, and we're right at the right angle. We're at the tee on that rough bump. I think the last time we played this hole in a tournament, I tried the rough bump, and that was the shot that I went at as opposed to the backspin shot. I've had a lot of success with that backspin shot, though. But the rough bump is going to be more consistent. If you find yourself in a spot of bother, I see a lot of people, they'll push the limit to try and come up through this area. You've got tons of fairway right here. So you're out in this area right here. This is not where you wanted to end up, and people will go this way where they have to do some max overpower thing, and they're trying to get out here just to the right spot so that they can get a rough bump to bleed them up onto the deal. And it's like, guys, look over here on the right. You got fairway all the way to the cup, and you got this monstrous backboard. So if you can run your ball up through here and you're on this backboard, this backboard is literally a wall. When we're not playing golf here, they play handball on that. I mean, it's damn near straight up and down. So if you can get your ball coming up, if you find yourself in a spot of bother out here, instead of just looking at the shortest direction to it, you can bring your ball around and run it. Literally, don't worry about where the cup's at. You can run it up this backboard and it'll fall down onto the green. Even if you end up right here on the fringe, you're getting your birdie and moving along. This can be this hole and the other par 4 are tough holes to get eagles on, but this hole I think is a little more eagleable than the mid par 4. I know personally I've had more success getting eagle on this hole than the mid par 4, but it's all about where you put yourself up here and how you want to approach this drive. I'm going to explore the rough bump. I'm going to explore getting out into this area and explore that rough bump, because I think it'll be super consistent if we can get our numbers down on the rough bump. And you can bring a sniper. It gives you great ball guide. You can do the backspin shot with a sniper if you've got an upper developed sniper. I typically bring a guardian on this hole if I'm committing to the backspin shot. And you'll probably be able to do the rough bump as well. You just won't have quite as much ball guide. The only real time you're going to use this direction where you're trying to recover to get up here, or this direction to try and recover to get up there, is when you're recovering, where you ended up outside of the zone. And you really want to end up somewhere in this zone or in front of it. I'm going to work on trying to get in front of it this week and see what my options are. Hole number 9. I like our chances on this hole, though. I like this hole. I liked it when Vineyard Acres was in Tour 7. And I like that hole a lot. Hole number 9. All right, this hole right here. Here's what's funny, is when we first started playing this hole, this was our landing zone. That was 1, that was 2, that was 3. That was our way of going at this cup. That was the... And they've changed this hole and they've made it easier in the fact that they put this sand trap and stuff here. There used to be a line of trees here. And so if you were out in this area, depending on where you're at, you couldn't get up into this zone. Like now, if you find yourself far back, what you can do is you can walk this rough up until you run out of red line, and you can do a rough bump and bleed yourself out into the fairway here to open up the window to get to the cup so that you can get on the other side of these trees. As opposed to if you're back here just hitting it up into here and now the trees are still in front of you, you can come over here to the left and you can rough bump off of this area and just bleed out and still have a second shot. I'm going to go with this at one of two ways. I'm going to hit as far as I can down here to the end, and it takes very little. I'm using a QB and a Kingmaker, and it takes a half a backspin to get yourself down here to the end. My second club being a big dog. Now, you could bring a power 4 ball here, but it's not going to help you at all on the drive. So you're actually going to have to do a little bit more on the drive. You're probably going to have to do like 1.5, maybe 2 backspin to stop yourself. But where a bigger ball will help you is on the second shot. I'm going to bring out a big dog, and I'm going to try and get up here as far as I can possibly get. Now with a 4 power ball, you may have a better opportunity to get, like, obviously you can get farther up in that hole. Or you may not have to do any overpower, depending on where your landing zone was here. If you can get out here in this zone, anywhere out in this zone, you got a straight in shot. Even if you're out here, as long as you can clear the trees, anywhere on this arc, okay? And typically this is going to be your short iron range, and you're going to be mid to max, just depending on where you're at. Maybe min if you can get up there far enough. So you've got a short iron shot into the cup. And I've had success on this hole in doing multiple stuff, but this right here is probably, as far as money goes, most people, that's going to be the path to getting an eagle here, is to hit one shot here, big dog, lay it up, hornet, thorn, whatever your short iron of choice is. There is another way that you can go at this, and the last time we played this, well, it was probably a couple times ago, my buddy Skibby was working on trying to get the trajectory right so that we could end up out in this area. Now, one of the things we have different is we've got an extra mile 9, and if you've got even like an APOC 5, it may be getting over into this zone right here. Now, when we first started really exploring this, and this was a couple years ago, really trying to explore getting over to this area right here, the deal was I found in a lot of times my second shot to lay it up, I was getting a little bit farther forward than I could if I was back here, but I was taking a big risk of getting caught up in the rough, and that it wasn't worth the skin. That I was still in my short iron, but I was just like in minimum short iron as opposed to maximum short iron. And so I took a big risk for a very little reward, and so I quit doing this shot. But here, a tournament ago, or last time we played this hole, my buddy Skibby was working on trying to get over here, and then what I was doing was coming up and just laying up, because I didn't have any power 5 balls. I didn't have enough that I wanted to practice that shot every time I went through, so I was just laying up, and then I would lay up to a spot out here, and then working on how to get my ball from here over. And I did figure out a way with a big dog to do a max overpower hook shot. And I was getting right into this area right here where it was a short chip to get on. And I was aiming my big dog, just trying to start off in this area right here, and I was aiming somewhere out here in the sand. I think I had one of my, I think as a reference points, I had one of my rings off of the end of this sand, trying to do a max overpower hook shot. and get up there. So it was one big ass shot to get over here, cross your fingers. And then if you made it, then you've got a max overpower hook shot to try and get on and two, so that you're actually putting or doing a super short chip for eagle. If I get this hole this week, I'm gonna try that shot. And if I'm gonna work on the drive shot to see what I can do to get over there. But even if I miss the drive shot to get over there, I'm not gonna move it forward. I'm gonna lay it up out here so that I can work on that shot, and I'm gonna try and work on both shots at the same time. There may be a way for us to get up on this green in two, and that would definitely change our tune. So I have a couple holes this week I'm going to be working on. These holes are going to be in Tour 2, Santa Ventura and Juniper Point. So we get 2 out of 3. We won't be able to get any of the Vineyard Acres. I don't think they have Vineyard Acres in Rookie. Let's go check. Let's see what we got. Play some golf. So I think it's in Tour 2, Juniper Point and Santa Ventura, but I don't think we have any access at all to Vineyard Acres. I'm pretty sure. The Milano. Nope. We won't have access to Vineyard Acres, but we will be able to get a lot of those Santa Ventura and Juniper Point holes in Tour number 2. So I guess I'll be playing some friendlies this week. Very good holes. I like a lot of these holes. I think we're going to have some great opportunities on these holes, and there's a few of these holes that I think that we can get better results on. I'm going to have to work on them a little bit. I'm trying to look at some of these par 5s from a little bit different angle, just to see what I can do with them. We play them the same way a lot, but I'm just trying to see. We've got other balls, and we've got some stuff now that we used to not have, and our clubs are a little bit more upgraded, so we'll see what we can get done. All right, that was a walkthrough scouting report for the Stateside tournament. Is that Stateside Classic? Is that what they're calling this? Or is it just Stateside? I thought it's the Stateside Classic. Classics. This is one of the Classics tournaments. Stateside. All right. Thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber, hit subscribe. I appreciate everybody who watches the channel, and have a great tournament.